Well, after a very long break, the Path has finally returned with a very strange but confident premiere. Hey guys, come over the season premiere of The Path, Season 2, Episode 1, Liminal Twilight, and guys, it has been a long time since The Path has been on. I think it's been since, like, either May or April. It definitely has been quite a while, almost an entire year, and you can definitely imagine that I was very excited to see this show back. I really did love Season 1. Season 1 was such a big surprise. I remember it started off and I'm like, okay, this could be a great show, but I thought it was going to have these problems, and it never really had them. All the problems I thought the show was going to have, it pretty much exceeded all my expectations, and I really did love the first season overall, but that made me worried with Season 2, because Season 1 was so good, I didn't really know where Season 2 was going to take us, especially with the way the finale ended, and I have to say that overall, this was a pretty great premiere, though it was quite confusing into everything that's really going on, but I like that because it was very intriguing and definitely held my interest, and you can tell we're going in a much more psychological direction than we did last season. That's something I'm definitely interested in getting into, but let's just get into this episode, which right off the bat is very confusing. We see Eddie, he's pretty much right where we left him. He's walking along Peru on a stormy night. At the same time, Meyer seemingly is woken up from his coma. Now, we know that Meyer has been thought to be dead, but Eddie goes into his motel, and Meyer quickly gets out of the hospital, and suddenly he's in Eddie's room, and he asks him why he's here. Eddie says he's sick. Meyer asks if someone else is coming, and Eddie says he has no idea what he's talking about. He had visions that he was sick, and that's why he came, and he was right, and Meyer tells him that they have to go. Eddie tells him he's not letting him go, informs him that his people think of him as a ball of light, and he has to tell them the truth, and Meyer says that that is not the truth. Eddie says he has to end this bullshit right now. Meyer says they have to see what the light asks. Meyer then leaves the motel, and Eddie reminds him that there is no fucking light, and that reminds us immediately that Eddie, is not one who's, really on their side. He is a non-believer at this point. He doesn't think the light's real. He thinks all of that is just some hoax, and we know that's kind of true, because Cal made up a lot of the runs, and I love the way that this episode starts. It really, it hooks you immediately. It's this incredible hook that hooks you immediately. It's very confusing what's really going on here, but like I said, it's very intriguing. That's really the perfect way to hook a viewer, and I like the way that was done. But Cal and Sarah are then with the movement outside on top of a mountain. Cal tells them that they mark the sacred site as the place of Meyer's transformation, and they humbly thank the light for making him one with it. Sarah says they will do their best to be guardians of Meyer's message, and Felicia then tells Sarah that they can't believe that Meyer's gone, and admits that they were wrong to hide his illness from her, because clearly, she didn't know how sick he really was, and she says that maybe this was all part of the plan. Maybe Cal was meant to write these runs, and basically, Meyer prophesies a miracle. People in the village saw him walk the street up this mountain and completely vanish, and Sarah's doing a pretty good job, we see, of hiding all of the, suspicions she really has in Cal, because we know she really does not trust Cal right now. After everything she found in the season finale, her and Cal are really not on good terms, and this episode does a pretty admirable job of reminding us really how divided and really how different these two are really becoming. So Sarah says that that doesn't really explain where Silas is, and Felicia says that maybe Silas went with him and became one with the lights, and of course we know what really happened, and Sarah has that suspicion as well, that, Silas didn't just go. There's definitely something more going on with that, and Cal goes to them, gives them an update on several Myerists and the jobs he has assigned them, and Sarah says he is also asked Kodiak to take on a bigger role, and they need someone with gifts on the council, and they remind her that he's quite controversial, and he's been living in Siberia for the last 12 years, and she says that he's also a 10R, who she knows that she can trust, and who has been with them for a very long time. So this is someone who she feels is great for her council, and Felicia says the decisions always went through Meyer. They did what they thought was best, and she'll see what it's like to have the weight of the Moon's future on her shoulder, and she agrees, and Cal then asks how they're supposed to do this if she can't even look at him. She says when the center opens in the city, she imagines he'll be spending most of his time there, so she knows that this isn't going to be a permanent move. You know, these two aren't going to be working side by side forever. They're eventually going to come apart, and she's very much looking forward to that day, because right now she really does not trust him at all. But we then see Eddie, who returns home and hops into the back of a pickup truck with a couple guys, and we see he's become a construction worker. And I don't know if he already was. I don't believe that they really specified what kind of job that Eddie really had. But yeah, he's a construction worker, and I thought that was definitely interesting to see. And Eddie's plot in general is very interesting because, you know, he's not involved with Meyerism and things like that. At least that we think he is. We'll get to that in the ending. But Sarah's a member of the board who has recently developed cancer, and she says that they will look to the light for him. And they do a pretty good job of reintroducing us to this culture and reintroducing us to this religion and the deprecations that it really has, and really what it can do to people, and really the lack of just authoritative, you know, the authority that they really do need. There are a lot of things that they're not really doing a lot about, like they don't really have very good medical care, and, you know, Sarah says they're just going to look to the light. So again, you can tell she's very naive, and she's kind of just going along with it, but Gabby then goes to her, asks what she wants to do about insulating the barn for winter, and Sarah says they'll discuss it at the next council meeting. She tells her that she has 4 new speaking engagements, and Gabby then reminds her it's almost May 14th, and first are rough with any kind of loss, and Sarah asks if she wants the kids to visit Eddie on his birthday, and Gabby says they're finally adjusting. Everyone knows how deeply they insulated them. It wouldn't look good on her. She says she's been living according to the world for months now, and says they'll bottle 2 gallons of water and see what testing of the water of Clarksville will cost. And basically, you know, we have sort of this very interesting subplot with the water supply, that there's a lot of really bad water in the town, and we don't know how it's really gone there, but everyone seems to have this contaminated water, and that's something that looks like it really is going to propel the season forward. And I think that's something that doesn't seem like a huge problem now, but it's going to be a much bigger problem moving forward, and that's a very good way of setting up how bad of a problem this really is. So a man named Russell's with the Possibles, among them Hawk and Sam, and tells them that they've made the choice, and now they begin 1R. And we know that Hawk was kind of struggling with what to do, but it seems that Hawk has actually made the choice to work with the Possibles. And I guess it's because, one, he just knew that he didn't really have much of a choice, he just kind of had to do this, but also because he knew that him and Ashley couldn't be together. But my one problem with Hawk is that there's never one mention of Ashley throughout this entire episode. It seems like Hawk's moved on, and I really don't believe it. I don't believe that Hawk has moved on. I don't believe that Hawk is someone who is now just kind of giving into Meyerism. It just doesn't seem like that was where we were going with Hawk, but whatever. But we also see Sam, aka Abe, who is still doing his investigation of Meyerism, and he's kind of gotten a lot more involved with it, we see. He tells them that they made the choice now to begin 1R, because when Meyer received the ladder, they began shedding of all connection to the shadow world, so they leave behind their possessions, their technology, friends, and family. It can be deeply painful. Some may say the most painful ruin of the ladder, but for everything that's left behind, something is gained a deeper union. They fall, get back up again, because when they finish 1R, they no longer will fall or straddle 2 worlds. They wake up from their liminal twilight and live the ladder. So Cal's walking around town. He's trying to recruit people to join, he's trying to join Meyerism and things like that. But you can tell that throughout this episode, he's constantly haunted by visions of him killing Silas. But not just that, also him having to tell Sarah, because that's the one thing that Sarah doesn't know. He already knows that he's not on good terms with her. He already knows that she really does not trust him right now. So telling her that will just make them separate further. And we know that Cal, the one person he cares the most about, if it's not Mary, is Sarah. And Sarah's someone that he really does, want to be loyal to and really actually does care about. And you really do feel bad for Cal here. You get why. You're not condoning what he did, but you get why he feels the way he does. And basically, he sees Mary there and asks her what she's doing in the city center. She says she asked for a transfer to work there. Now, Mary's only in this episode for like 1 or 2 scenes, but she says she asked for a transfer to work there since it's better for her to be close to Sean in her condition because she's 5 months pregnant. And of course, we know that Mary and Cal did sleep together, so we don't know whose baby this really is, if it's hers or if it's Sean's. I'm assuming it's Sean's, but again, the show didn't really tell us. And Cal congratulates her, asks if she's been okay with it. She says it has been tough being in the dorm sharing a bathroom and not being able to have food on hand, but they're making it work, and Sean comes up. Cal says he just heard the great news. They walk away. We can tell that Cal is far from pleased, though. He really is not at all happy about this arrangement. He genuinely loves Mary. I've said before, Mary really is the one to calm him down and show this more passionate side of him that's not as directive and not as, not evil, that's not the word, but menacing as he seems to be. And, now that she's really gone away, it really is starting to break Cal, who we see in this show is really starting to break in every way possible. So Sarah's then driving Summer and Hawk to see Eddie, tells her sometimes the truth they hear inside them is more truth than one written in their book, and that's the message they have to respond to. So Summer promises not to tell anyone. She runs up to Eddie, they embrace, and Hawk wishes him a happy birthday. He gestures to Sarah, but she does nothing, and it's not because she doesn't want to. You can see a part of her really wants to, wave to Eddie and say that she loves him, but she just can't do that. The choice that she's made, she's not allowed to associate with someone who's a non-believer. Much like Hawk, how he's not allowed to associate with Ashley. The difference is that you can tell Sarah really has a lot of compassion for Eddie, and she constantly wants to kind of go back to him, and she kind of wants to make things work, I think, but Hawk never mentions anything with Ashley, and we know those two, really did care about each other and really did love each other, and I was hoping that we would have seen Ashley more in this episode, but I don't know if we're going to see her on the show ever again. She's not a main character anymore, so I don't even know if she's going to be a part of the show. We'll have to see, but definitely that's going to be interesting. But Sarah says he climbed for Cal tells the movement that when Meyer finished the word to them, he was exhausted because the message was to live it. And Sarah says he climbed it for their transgressions and their damage. And Cal says he wasn't alone when he made that climb. Silas walked with him. Their great shaman became one with the light as well. And now their light is more powerful than ever. So Eddie's in with Hawk and Summer, tries to catch up with them. But anything he asks Hawk, he clearly just dodges the question. He doesn't really want to answer him. And it's understandable. He hasn't been in his life a lot. And Hawk says that everyone thinks he hates them. He makes it clear he doesn't. Hawk says that he's a denier, and this scene just didn't make sense to me. Hawk was a denier. Hawk was someone who didn't believe in this religion. Why is Hawk mad at Eddie for being a denier when Hawk was contemplating whether or not to be a denier with Ashley? It just felt like Hawk's character was kind of off in this episode. This didn't feel like Hawk in this scene, at least. It kind of just felt like this is the direction they've taken Hawk in, and we definitely need more explanation of why Hawk really is this way, because right now, this is not the same Hawk we saw last season. I don't really know where they're going with him, but Eddie says he never signed that form. Hawk says it doesn't matter because he still walked out, and Summer asks him what kind of cake he wants for his birthday tomorrow. Eddie says he may skip out on it for the rest of the year. She says he has to have it because it keeps him sweet, and he then sees a girl named Chloe Jones who recognizes him, who's actually with her son Johnny, and this definitely is one of the more interesting parts of the premiere. Bill then tells everyone in the council that they are growing at a filling rate. They have 15 people signing up for workshops and retreats a day. They have new outposts in many different places, and Cal says the opportunity to own a building in New York City, and Felicia asks where they are with finances. Bill says they're in excellent shape. Now, the problem is that they need 800, they need 800 grand to pay back taxes on this place, and Cal says they're about to be a legitimate religion in the eyes of the nation. Sarah says they were never intended to be a religion, and Meyer didn't want them beholden to government regulations, and Cal says that religious status will not only legitimize them, but free use on the shitload and property tax they have to pay, and they can thrive, and in 3 years, the building in the city will be worth a fortune, and all he needs is the council to come with $2 million, and he has the rest. So it really seems like he has this all worked out. But we very quickly see that while Cal seems to have everything worked out, he really has not really thought everything through that well, especially because they don't really have that kind of money. So Sarah quickly tells him that Meyer would not want this, and Cal says he isn't here, they have to make the decisions now, and he knows that they can't keep relying on Meyer. They have to evolve from that, and Sarah really isn't willing to do that. So in some sense, this is something that I actually am on Cal's side with, because yeah, Meyer is dead. They need to accept that, and they need to move on, and, not just rely on him and, do things because Meyer would want it. Yes, he was the starter of the moon, but Cal is meant to continue it, and you can see that Sarah really is not understanding that. And after the meeting, Cal tells her they can't keep going on like this. The council thinks they're a mess, and soon everyone else will think that too. She says she's learned to live with most of his lies, but she just won't accept his story about Silas. She knows there's a lot of cracks in it, and she doesn't believe a second of it. And he says people saw it happen. She says that he should just put himself in charge since it's what he really wanted, and he really doesn't want her there. He just wants to be on his own because clearly he's not listening to her. He's doing what he wants, and Sarah makes a lot of really good points here, and you can really understand where she's coming from. You can also see what Cal's going through too. He's going through a lot psychologically, emotionally, and again, I think it's very interesting where they're taking him. But Chloe and Eddie then reminisce about a teacher named Mr. Pinto who taught algebra, who they used to make fart noises around, and it's kind of a funny scene where they talk about this other kid named Benson Buckkiss, and apparently this is actually someone who they made fun of, who Chloe actually married, we found out. And she says that she needs something solid after Johnny. It was good for a while, but they just weren't soulmates. And she hands Eddie some sunscreen for Summer, says she guesses that Sarah didn't pack his beach bag this morning. Eddie tells her they've separated, and Summer says that she wants to go into the water. Hawk asks what happened to his arm, and Eddie says it was just a work accident. And there's definitely probably more with that. On these shows, I've noticed when characters say, oh, it was just an accident, it's not just an accident. There's a lot more to it, and Hank then says a prayer. Sarah sends an extra one for Joy, who's leaving 3R, and Hawk says that he may actually miss her. And Nicole is very happy for her, but is a bit upset since she doesn't know who to talk to now. And Sarah then asks Russell if he could be a spy for Cal, tells her that if she has a problem with that, they can deal with it herself. And Hank asks why she doesn't trust him, and Sarah says she just asked Russell to keep an eye on him for tomorrow at the auction. And Gabby says she's starting not to trust him either. She just can't shake Kodiak's words, and he said the building will consume them. She just can't shake that away. So she even's having doubts about Cal, and Hank says she's always had a thing for Kodiak, and Joy agrees this is the worst send-off dinner ever. Nicole said it's hard to have two people in charge. Meyer should have probably just picked one of them, and Joy says that Meyer doesn't pick the light does. And Gabby notices Summer has gone tanner, and we get this really well-done scene where, she can tell that something has happened to Summer. Something has caused her to get very tan, and Hawk tries to cover it up by saying that he took Summer to the beach, and that scene I really did love. One of the most intense scenes the show's done, and it really reminds us how great the show is with just doing, having dramatic scenes and having tension-filled scenes just out of one simple conversation. The show does it extremely well, and this was a very well-done example of that. So then we get this one storyline that I really have no idea what it means. I'm not gonna lie. This whole part of the episode, I'm drawing so many blanks with. I don't know where they're going here. I think it's interesting. I just don't know what they're doing here, because we see a couple guys. They find Silas's dead body below the mountain, and they plan on cremating him tonight. And it's not Silas's body, it's Meyer's body, and we don't know what that's all about. But Sam, Hawk, and another member of 1R, Noah, go to visit a woman who asks if they can watch her baby, and Abe says they're not doctors, they just come to bring water, and the woman says to look at her skin, says it doesn't look right, which is the same disease as we know that Abe's daughter had, cholera. She has it, and says if she wants, they can take her to the hospital. The woman says they've sent them back home, and Sam says to not let her drink from the tap, nowhere near it, and he asks Hawk and Noah to give her some more. She tells Hawk that they should be doing a lot more. Hawk asks what, and she says she doesn't know what he's supposed to be, the one with all the answers, and says distributing water is cool, but it's just a band-aid and does nothing to fix the wound. And Noah's a very interesting character. I like the direction that she's headed. Hawk then gives her the water, tells her she's intense. She says she got sick on going to NYU and talking about the shit going on in the world and actually wanted to do something about it. Hence why we didn't see her last season. She's joined because, she really wanted to do something. She heard all this talk about what they were doing, and she didn't just want to hear about it, she wanted to join them. And basically, she says it must have been nice for him growing up in a family that was actually committed to the stuff that matters, and then remembers what everyone's been saying about Eddie, and she says that he's like a heathen, but at least he has one kick-ass parent, of course that being Sarah. And Cal and Sarah are then at the auction. Cal's planning on bidding around 4G, but Russell reminds him that they don't have the cash for it, and Russell then walks away, realizing that Cal is really not in the right state of mind, and he actually bids like around 5 grand, which again they don't have, and that really freaks Russell out. And Hawk then goes into Sarah's office, and we get this pretty great scene where he tells her this isn't a good idea, lying to everyone like this. It's not good for her. He doesn't think it's easy for her to live like this, and it's certainly not good for Summer. And she says she doesn't know what's good anymore. He says it's not fair. She says things got more complicated, and he says she can't say that to him after everything. And she asks him what he wants her to say, that he can't see his father anymore because she knows that she can't do that. He walks out and slams the door. So he really is getting annoyed of the restriction that they have with Eddie. You know, he wants to be with Eddie. He wants to have a relationship with him. But unfortunately, because of the fact he never sees him anymore, he feels just like a distant stranger. And that's not at all how it should be. So then we get this scene where Sam goes to Nicole, and they look at the new t-shirts that Cal wanted. Nicole thinks they look way too professional, while Sam really likes them if they play golf. He asks if she wants him to stock them. She says she's comatose since the baby kept her up all night. She was this close to shoving a pillow over her face, and then realized that was probably the worst thing to say him from, because, you know, he just got his daughter back, and she's okay, and he says that she's relieved. She makes stupid jokes, because everywhere he goes, the rest of the world treats him like they're on eggshells, and she says she thinks about him all the time and what it must have been like, him leaving the hospital, think everything is better. He then kisses her, and she says they can't. He says he's sorry, he's just felt so close to her these last few months. She says she knows, but it's not right, and tells him she has to go. And again, very interesting scene. I don't exactly know where that's gonna go, but that was very weird, wherever we're going with Nicole and Sam. I never really would have thought these two as romantic pairing, but it does further Sam's involvement, or Abe's involvement in the movement overall. And I'm very interested in seeing really where that's gonna go, because that was very weird. So Eddie's at work and asks the guys to join for a beer after. The guys say, though, thought that he was good for them, and Eddie said it's fine, he doesn't need to, he's not good for anyone. They then let him know they're just fucking around, and he lets them know he's not one of them anymore. They agree to give him a ride, and a very strange scene. I don't exactly know where we're going with this, but Nicole then leads Mary and Sean into her guest house, which is now going to be their home, and they thank her, and that's all we see of Mary and Sean. We see that they're in this house, and Nicole says not to thank her since they got word that the expectant parents need to be out of the dorms. She guesses someone's making an impression, and we don't know really what's going to happen there. That's all we see of Mary and Sean, and Eddie's in at the bar. One of his colleagues tells him that the most important thing for him to do is to get back there, since his first divorce wrecked him, and now he thinks about it and knows he can't get that time back, and he needs to do what he can to, you know, reach out to Sarah, and that's exactly what Eddie decides to do. He makes a call, goes to her, leaves a voicemail, and Russell then rushes to Sarah, tells her he just came back from the auction. Sarah asks what he bought it for, and Russell says it was $5 million, which Sarah says they don't have, of course, and asks him how he could let it happen, and he asks how she could put him into this position. She says she was delegating him in this position, and he says that she was just making him do her dirty work, which is very true. Everything that Russell's doing is stuff that Sarah is afraid to do, and that's pretty much, you know, all it really is. She really could have put anyone in this position, and he says it's messing all them up. She then sees the voicemail from Eddie, tells him to go, and she then drives, listens to the voicemail from him, not all paying attention to the road, and actually hits a deer. We see, and it basically was him trying to tell her, you know, that he wants to see the kids, and he knows it's hard to break the rules, and she then runs over a deer, and Michelle Monaghan killed it in this scene. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Sarah as a character. I personally do. I think she's a very well fleshed out character. But Michelle Monaghan, you know, it's no secret that she is an incredible actress. And even if you don't like Sarah, you can't help but think she's incredible. And scenes like this very well show that. So she sees another deer in the distance who flees the scene after seeing her. She cries out, and Cal goes to her, asks if she's okay. She says she hit her and killed her because of him, since he just spent $5 million that they don't have. And she doesn't know what she believes anymore, doesn't know who she is. He says that's not true, she knows, and she says he has turned her into a hypocrite. She's standing there in front of all these people telling some story she doesn't even know is true, and he says he didn't know if it was true either. When Meyer got sick, he was terrified, he devoted his whole life to his story, but then he went to the light and vanished, so it has to be true. And you can see that Cal is really starting to believe it, and she asks about Silas and tells him to look at her and tell her he believes Silas went with him. He says he doesn't know about that, but as long as the work is real, she says that he sounds just like Eddie. He took the truth from her, and she's so lost now, and she's killed a fucking deer. All she wants is the truth, but she has this feeling in her gut. He takes the deer, puts it into his trunk, tells her to get in, and she asks where they're going, and we are basically getting the sense that Cal's probably going to, you know, tell her, because he hasn't really told anyone. Sarah's really the only person that he trusts for this kind of thing. So Hawk is with Noah and asks what's going on. She says since she was a little kid, she always had too much empathy, and she would see pictures in the newspaper of people in an earthquake, in a war, and just obsess. And she says she just can't stop thinking about that baby today, and that's why she wants to do something so badly, because maybe if she does, it'll keep her from feeling so much. And he says he can feel the lives of so many dead people under the ground. She says that he's just stoned. They both laughed, and they go to the factory that's actually responsible for poisoning people's water. And without thinking, Hawk wonders who gets to make these kind of choices, and without thinking, he picks up a rock and actually smashes the window, which sets off the security alarm, and luckily they flee the scene immediately, but this is just furthering the tension for where everything is going to go. There's a lot of potential there, so that's something else I'm very interested in, but Cal and Sarah then walk through the woods, and we get probably the highlight of this episode by far. I thought this was by far the best scene, but Sarah's frantic, asking him where they're going. He explains to her what truly happened to Silas, and she asks if he's crazy. He says that he didn't, and, he says that he didn't mean to do it, and she now knows that he did in fact kill Silas, but she doesn't believe him again. There's not a single thing he can tell her that she really believes, so she needs proof that he actually did this, and tells him to dig up the body, and he gets a shovel out to dig with, and we then see the men who found Silas's dead body are commiserating, and again, we don't really know what's going on there, but Abe then drives back home to his family, wants to see the baby, who looks much healthier. He tells Jocelyn that they were going to put him on a desk job, and this was a shot to do something big with their life, and she says if they still have a life, and takes the baby from him, he promises her it's almost over, he'll be home soon. Cal then, and basically you can tell that Jocelyn's getting quite impatient. She's really not enjoying what, Abe is doing as Sam, and she really wants him to just come back home because he hasn't been able to, but Cal then digs up the body. Sarah is emotionally ridden to see Silas's dead corpse, and it's a very sad scene. I mean, this is really Sarah realizing that, yeah, Cal definitely can kill, and Cal had that ability to kill someone like that, and Cal's not at all who she really thought that he is, and it's just really sad to see. There's so much going through her mind, and I can't wait to see where that's going to go. But the men then go to this old man and his son in a cave, speak to him and rush him, but quickly realize he's deaf. The man asks the little boy who the man in the cave is. The boy explains it's an illustration of a white man who pushed him off the cliff, the man who killed Meyer, and Meyer is then with Eddie. He tells him he woke up from his death. He picked up a son, but he was the wrong son, as thunder rumbles in the distance. He tells him he thought he was being punished, but it was a test, and now he will receive the last 3 runs. Eddie tells him this is crazy. Meyer says the son would come, the message would be finished, and he would become one with the light. Eddie asks which son, and Meyer says that he has been the chosen son all along, we find out. So yes, Eddie might actually be the one to replace Cal, but in reality, Eddie's actually in the motel room. He's splashing water in his face, he's panting heavily. He goes to take a shower, but when he takes his shirt off, we actually see on his back that there's a scar that shows he was in fact struck by lightning, so possibly what we saw there definitely could be some truth to it, and that is the way the episode ends. Very interesting stuff overall. Let's just get into this and where I think we're really headed for this season. So overall, I thought this was a really well done premiere, but there's a lot of unfinished questions and a lot of things I'm kind of just scratching my head at, especially when it comes down to Eddie, because they kind of made us believe that Eddie was, hallucinating things, and that Meyer wasn't really there, and that he was just kind of getting into Eddie's head. But as we saw from the ending, this actually could possibly be true. What Eddie saw, could very well be the reality, because he has the scar on his back. So yeah, Meyer could actually be alive. Maybe he is kind of being trying to recruit Eddie, and it makes sense too, because as we know, Khaled was not the choice that Meyer should have picked. Meyer's realizing that he made a fatal error in that regard, and that Eddie may actually be the one to, I think, bring balance to Meyerism. I don't think he's there to really, be the leader of Meyerism. I think he's there to bring balance, because he's someone who actually could do that. He's someone who's very much struggling with it, but he also does want to have that faith. He wants to believe that Meyerism's real, but he's just under the belief that there's no way that it possibly could be real, and I think that definitely he's going to start to learn really what his true path is. So that's something I'm definitely interested in getting into, is really where that's going. The 3 men, on the other hand, who are investigating Meyer's body, I have no idea where that's going. That really doesn't make a ton of sense to me, why we met these 3 men, what their true purpose is. I really have no idea. Just kind of feels like that was a storyline crammed in there. I don't know what's going to happen there. What I definitely mentioned in, though, is Sarah. Sarah, from where she's going this season, looks to be the most compelling of the three, honestly. I like where Cal's going, I like where Eddie's going, but Sarah looks like she's really going in a very interesting direction because she's clearly losing faith. I mean, a lot of what she's been told, she's realizing is a lie. She's now realizing that, basically who was supposed to be the shaman of everything is now dead. Cal actually does have this psychopathic nature in him that she didn't want to believe that he had, but now she's starting to see that he does in fact have them. There's a lot of things that he's not being honest with everyone about. He's not at all the man who he says he is. He's not, someone who should be leading this movement at all, and I think Sarah definitely is starting to go a bit batshit because of it, and I think she's really starting to struggle with her faith and trying to keep calm. You can see it's very hard for Sarah to do that, and I'm very interested in seeing where her whole arc is going to go. But Cal as well is really grappling with his past demons from what he did, and I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen with Cal, because you can clearly tell that a lot of what he did, such as, the killing of Silas and also a lot of the lies he told to Sarah, are really already starting to catch up to him, and it's really starting to affect him greatly, and that's something I'm definitely interested in getting into. And then Abe, as we know, Abe, he's clearly made more of a life for himself in the movement. He has some weird thing going on with Nicole. I don't really know how I feel about that, but clearly Jocelyn, he's kind of not distancing himself from, but Jocelyn clearly is starting to feel very distant, and like they're not as much of a part of his life anymore because he never really gets to see them. And that's something else I'm interested in getting into is Abe going to have to say goodbye to his family because, again, they're non-believers, and is Abe going to have to be forced to, confess to the lights and be forced to admit what he did and who he really is and things like that. The one thing with Abe that doesn't make sense is what happened to the Jason Kemp case. They didn't solve it. There was never an answer. He didn't close the case. Nothing happened there. Why is Allison just gone from this story? That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I know that we saw her in episode 9, and we didn't really know what was going to happen from there, but the Jason Kemp case is not over. It never was over. Why are we still, why did it just end? Why aren't we seeing Allison still? That didn't make a lot of sense to me, why we didn't see her. I mean, we didn't see her that much in the last episode as it is, so why are we still not seeing her? I just don't understand that. It just kind of felt weird that she's not there. So I don't really know why she's not there. Also, no mention of Ashley. Hawk never once in this episode, even though he has a very compelling thing going on with the water supply, which I am definitely interested in getting into. It definitely is a big problem that needs to be addressed, but no one really seems to be doing anything about it. And Hawk and Noah seem like they're going to be the only ones to take a stand. Noah, right now, to me at least, seems like she's only there to replace Ashley, and that's the only reason why we have Noah in this episode, so Hawk can have someone to talk to. But why has he suddenly gotten over Ashley? Is it because he's realized that he has no future with her? Is it because he knows that maybe she's still in his life somehow? I mean, you don't love someone that much and then completely forget about them. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why they didn't talk about Ashley in this episode. That whole part of the episode just didn't really work, and Hawk was not really acting like himself throughout this whole episode. He was really struggling with faith, and it seems like this episode he's really not at all. He's really accepted that he likes what he's doing and that he actually wants to be part of this religion, so I really don't know where they're going with Hawk. We'll have to see. And then I guess the only other thing is Eddie and Sarah's relationship. You can tell that these two do still love each other, and that they do still have that devotion that they had. It never just went away. It's just Sarah's made a choice, and they can't be together, and I think she definitely does care about Eddie, but she's starting to realize the restrictions that takes. She can't have the relationship that she once had with him, which is very sad to see. But overall, guys, I'm definitely intrigued by the season. They're going in a much different direction. They have a longer episode length of 13 episodes. Don't know if that was the best idea, but I'm definitely interested in seeing where we're going to go this season. There are a lot of interesting directions and angles that the season really does hint at, especially between Cal and Sarah, and especially what's going on with Eddie. That's something I'm definitely interested in getting into. So overall, guys, I really did enjoy this episode. I am going to give The Path Season 2, Episode 1, Liminal Twilight, a 4 to 5 or a B+. So overall, guys, remember this episode of The Path. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Do you like where they're going with this season? What's really going on with the men? Is Meyer really alive? What's really happening there? And then we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for episode 2 of The Path, because there actually was 2 episodes that came out, so I will review that one, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.